All right, we'll stay in the NFL, and it's that time of year for the franchise tags. We got 9 players with the tag this offseason, including 3 that got the tag for the second consecutive year. That's more than a quarter of the NFL teams, but it does fall well short of the record 14 franchise tags that were dished out last offseason. The positions vary somewhat. We got 2 wide receivers, 3 offensive linemen, 1 defensive lineman, and 3 safeties. All right, over to you, Drink. What stands out to you on this franchise tag list?
Well, I think first and foremost, what I did notice about this whole franchise tag situation in this offseason that I like was what the Bucks did in general, not just Chris Godwin, but how you know what? Let me backtrack. Let me talk about something else before I get in that. The NFL, right? They find these teams always find a loophole. No matter how clad iron these regulations are in the NFL, they find a way. What I find very interesting is this season they got a new term which is called a avoidable year inside of contract. So basically, a lot of these guys, let's say the guy we was talking about earlier, Levante David, for example. Levante David, on the surface, it looks as if he signed a 2-year deal worth how many ever million. Technically, though, if you actually look in the fine print, he actually signed a 4-year deal. However, they had this new term called voidable contracts, or voidable years. So what they did is they made the last 2 years voidable until he gets to the second year, and then they can activate the third year, and then activate the fourth year, and so on and so forth. But since they're voided, you can't hit them as far as the cap go because those years on paper doesn't exist. Even though between the player and the organization, they do exist. It's one of these fine things. I find it fascinating how these teams are figuring out how to keep their players and stay under the cap at the same time. So I wanted to throw that out because I thought that was very fascinating. But on to the question, like I was saying about the Bucks. Well, we know what the Bucks situation was. You know, they had to figure out how do we pay Chris Godwin, Shaq Barrett, Levante Davis, and keep Tom Brady happy. And you know, that's not mess up with the dynamics of the team too much. So we got to figure out if we can move this piece for that piece, you know, so on and so forth. It seems to me the Bucks have figured it out because I think Shaq Barrett is going to get paid. I think he's going to get paid. You just did the 2-year deal with Levante Davis. So both of those guys, you got them covered. So you're like, all right, cool. Chris Godwin then's become your biggest problem. Oh, we'll franchise tag him. How you feel about being franchise tagged, Chris? Oh, I ain't really tripping. We make it to the Super Bowl again. That's all good. And then next year you can pay me. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, cool. Now we happy with that. Hey, Antonio Brown, we probably going to bring you and Grunt back on the minimums. You know, no big deal. How y'all feel about that? Hey, bring it along. We with it. Tom, we're gonna reconstruct your contract so we can get a little more out of your contract. How you feel about that? Man, you know, I don't care. I'm gonna play until I'm 50. It don't matter to me. All right, cool. And the reason I'm fascinated with this is because this is what the Chiefs did. And we just seen what the Chiefs did. They made it right back to the Super Bowl again. They only lost 2 games on the season. It wasn't the best showing in the Super Bowl, but they were still there nonetheless. And why? Because they pretty much copy and paste. They paid the guys that they had to pay. And this is without the voidable contract thing, I might add. But they paid the guys they had to pay, and they made it happen. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, has done the same thing Tom Brady was doing in New England. He keep reconstructing his contract because he's smart enough to know it ain't all about the Benjamins. It's about these rings and the Benjamins. So he getting them both. So I liked it that. Now, if I had to go with, let's say, a surprise, right? Let's say a guy seen and I was like, wait, they franchise tagged him again? I thought Allen Robinson was gone because he's been talking about a contract all year. They kind of been like, yeah, man, we hear you. We know you better than any quarterback that's throwing the ball to you, but, you know, we'll get to it later. You franchise tag Robinson. You best to be coming with a quarterback to throw him the ball. This is ridiculous. Like, if I'm Robinson, I'm like, well, I might have to take this team to court. Like, You gonna franchise tag me, and then you're not gonna give me a quarterback to throw me the ball? Like I don't know, but if I'm Allen Robinson, I might be raising some hell this year. Like I refuse to just be out here like with elite talent, ready for somebody to throw me the ball, and you keep every guy you can get off the thrift store, you keep signing him to throw me the ball. Listen, I'm not a charity case. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not out here raising money for the sick or the hungry. I'm out here trying to get paid. I need somebody to throw me the ball. I'm sick of this charity case crap. So I was a little surprised with that. Cam Robinson, I looked at that. I thought the Jags would move. I mean, like Cam Robinson hasn't been terrible. About no means that I'm saying he was a terrible left tackle. Matter of fact, from everything that I understand about Cam Robinson, he's been one of the better left tackles in the league. However, some told me that Jags was going to move on. I just thought they was going to move on, get some fresh legs in there, because like Jags, with Urban Meyer taking over the Jags, I just feel like a lot of stuff was going to get changed around because Urban Meyer wants the team a certain look compared to what Doug Marrone had and, so on and so forth. So I was surprised to see that re-sign. Leonard Williams. I don't know if this guy is he good? And the reason I ask is he got drafted really high by the Jets. Then they released him or traded him, whatnot. He got with the Giants. I don't hear his name a lot as far as a game changer, but it always around this time of year when it comes to franchise tags or contract extension, something like that. That's when I hear his name every year. It don't stick out to me as far as what he does on the field. You might pay him a little more attention than I have. That's why I asked, like, is he good? I don't know, but I'm a little baffled with that, I guess to say. And then the last one was the Saints. I see. So they franchise tagged Marcus Williams, but they sent Janoris Jenkins packing, and I understand if I remember this correctly. I guess they still in some type of contract negotiation with Marshawn Lattimore. So I'm worried about that secondary. I'm glad they brought back Marcus Williams at least, but that secondary look like it might take some hits this season. It don't look like they'll be as tight. And granted, I'm not saying the Saints secondary was world beaters from the start, but it was good enough to get the job done. You know what I mean? With Lattimore, Jenkins, and et cetera, et cetera. It was good enough to get the job done. Now you're losing a couple of those pieces. So, and you still got a quarterback situation to figure out. So let's see how that goes. But as far as like sticking out to me, I just really like what the Bucs did. I think a lot of teams should take the approach that if you can, what the Chiefs did last year, what the Bucs did this year, try to bring those pieces back. Let's run it back. Let's try to make something happen, and let's see where it goes. So I'm gonna say the Bucs, and not just Chris Godwin though, just the whole mix of everything. How they got everybody under the salary this year.
Yeah, pretty active time in the franchise tags. It seemed like I had to roll back to last year. It's like, oh wow, 14. I don't know. We must have been busy that day when we talked about it. I do agree about the Bucs. I thought keeping Chris Godwin is a very smart move, even if you can't maybe pay him this year or right now. I think he's a real critical piece, and I think it was come playoff time that I thought Chris Godwin was a real key to that offense. So good for the Bucs, and of course when you're we assume that at some point Tom Brady will stop playing football. But until that time, load up as much as you can. Keep the weaponry, keep the armory locked and loaded, so we can go to work on Sundays. And that's what the Bucs are doing. And I completely agree with it. Much as last year, what they did with Leonard Fournette, bringing him in, the drafting of Tristan Wirfs, all these things to help Tom Brady at his advanced age. Absolutely right. And, defensively, as it turns out, they're in a real nice position over there with a fearsome front seven and a secondary with Antoine Winfield that punches above his weight class. I think Tampa Bay's in fantastic position. There were some, I thought that I do agree also with Cam Robinson. I thought it was a little bit curious. I think since his rookie season, he's kind of been a little up and down, maybe a little inconsistent. We do have a source down there in Jacksonville who, and I got the sense from him, the last couple of years that, he just wasn't enamored with Cam Robinson. I think he lost the season to injury. But with him being franchise tagged, I have to assume that's Urban Meyer has some input and say, I like Cam Robinson. I want him to stick around. And because of that, we'll just have to see how that goes. But, in totality, I think Cam Robinson's a good player. It just seems a little odd to me. And, Allen Robinson, you talk about, the quarterback situation in Chicago. You know what? To me, Allen Robinson has a little DeAndre Hopkins in him. You remember the first several years of DeAndre Hopkins' career, you had Tom Savage and Case Keenum and TJ Yates. Brock Osweiler. Thank you for filling in that blank, because I knew I was going to forget somebody that Bill O'Brien had, flopped in there before Deshaun Watson and before he started, tearing down teams. But Allen Robinson, the two most notable quarterbacks he's had are Mitch Trubisky and Blake Bortles. So Allen Robinson, when Allen Robinson comes out and puts up 200 catches over the past 2 years, he's the real deal. He's one of the most underrated. He might be the most underrated receiver in football, and because of that, I think the tag's disrespectful. It's got a little different reasons, but this is about how I felt with AJ Green in Cincinnati. I would either pay the man or I'd let him walk. And I don't like that. There's some instances where I understand the franchise tag and I like it for certain teams. I don't think this was done in good faith. I think, and we do see oftentimes the franchise tag is simply an extension to allow teams to continue to negotiate long-term contracts. I really hope that's what this is. This is a guy who deserves to get his money. So I hope that Chicago's continuing to work on this and take some contract negotiations seriously, because Allen Robinson should get paid. The Leonard Williams thing, no, I haven't paid all that much attention, because he plays in New York, and New York has two pretty bad football teams right now. So no, but I'm going to say, I think the Giants defense last year really kind of improved. I think Leonard Williams did have a lot to do with it. And I think the big knock on Leonard Williams, kind of early in his career was, I think everybody likes Leonard Williams and they think he's a really good football player. You just didn't quite have the metrics that could back it up. 11.5 sacks is 11.5 sacks. So with that, you're getting, along with the talent, you're getting some quantifiable result to where you can say, yeah, 11.5 sacks. We using that negotiating table. Pay me. And I'm also going to say a couple other points off of Leonard Williams. I think the NFL, this whole thing where you can franchise guys in back-to-back years, I don't like that. I think the NFL should have a rule to where if you franchise a guy, 1 year, the next season he should be ineligible. You should either give him an actual contract, or you should let him walk. You shouldn't be like Justin Simmons, Brandon Scherf, Leonard Williams. They shouldn't be. Even Kirk Cousins. You remember Kirk Cousins he got franchised 2 or 3 straight years. And I felt like they were never serious about paying him. No. And I don't think 1 year, and you want to do it to try to help teams, keep their star player or whatever, because they don't feel like they can pay him max amount of dollars for his position. I think 1 year is fine, but the back-to-back thing, it bothers me, and I don't think you should be allowed to. But these guys come out there on these 1 year deals, and we just saw it with Dak Prescott. He gets hurt. And not everybody gets that fortunate. There's a whole plethora of situations where, if Leonard Williams gets hurt, he's not getting the big bag. He's not going to get it. I think, you could, like Brandon Scherf, even Justin Simmons, like they're not getting it. So, and the other thing about it is, when I think Leonard Williams, it makes me think of the Jets, who are now out here franchising Marcus May. The Jets are just awful. I can't even fathom, like, how do you let these guys that you draft super high and they just gone? And now other teams are dealing with them, Jamal Adams, Leonard Williams, and then the moves you do make, you pay Le'Veon Bell this amount of money, and you don't even know how to use him properly, or maybe he just can't play no more. That the Jets just bother me. And a guy like Marcus May, a nice player, but he's a safety. You just had an all-pro safety, and you were such an inept organization that you could not keep him happy, and you couldn't pay him. It's a separate thing, but it's just another example of the Jets just being awful. And just for the Saints, as I do want to get to something you said about the Saints secondary. I think that the Janoris Jenkins thing, I don't think it's that big a deal. I think guys this time of year, and we've seen it, teams are just trying to shed salary, and some of these veteran guys, I think it becomes an age game. If you happen to be on the wrong side of 30 or you're whatever age, and like, all right, we got to shed this just to, if nothing else, to get a little younger. But I still think there's a lot of good things in that secondary. You got Lattimore. You're going to keep Marcus Williams with this, Malcolm Jenkins. And don't forget about guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's a very versatile player, can play nickel. Don't forget about P.J. Williams. I still think there's a lot in that secondary that they could be okay. The bigger issue for them will be quarterback, of course.
Yeah, I guess my comment comes off if negotiation with Lattimore goes left. I just think they secondary gonna take a big hit.
If they can't lock up Lattimore, then that'll be a huge deal. But if I had to say, I gotta believe they'll get that done. And Lattimore is an elite corner in this league. I think he's top 5. I gotta believe, since they're doing this with Marcus Williams, they feel very confident that they can handle the Marshawn Lattimore negotiations.